Welcome to the Life Coaching Podcast, your go-to source for inspiration, transformation, and actionable insights. I am your host, Angel Gonzalez, and I am thrilled to have you on this journey towards personal excellence and empowerment. In each episode, I dive deep into the realms of life coaching, wealth creation, and personal development, sharing transformational stories from individuals who have achieved significant breakthroughs in their lives. Whether you are aiming to redefine your career, improve your relationships, or discover your true passions, this podcast is your partner in unlocking your full potential. Join me every week to hear from thought leaders, experts, and everyday heroes who share their practical strategies and heartfelt stories of success. If you are ready to unleash your potential, let's get started. Welcome to this another episode of the Life Coaching Podcast. I am Angel Gonzalez and I am with Gustavo Bernal. He is originally from Venezuela, my own country as well, and he is now located in the US. Gus is a curated filmmaker who, as many Venezuelan citizens, had to go through a process of reinvention and resilience due to his immigration process. Moving from one city to another and rebuilding his family multiple times, Gus achieved success. Gus is accumulating wins under his sleeves, and now he is dedicated 100% to his business. His film, Tiny Victories 2.0, A Tale of Empathy, traveled the world, being presented in many scenarios and festivals like Copenhagen, Dubai, Chicago, Detroit, New York, and more recently, here in Melbourne City, Australia. Welcome to the Life Coaching Podcast, Gus.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and I appreciate that being here to talk about my journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming here. I really appreciate the time that you are taking and bringing your expertise in the area of filmmaking. But what most resonates with me is your resilience story, is your process of reinvention. And I want to bring up the fact that you bring a unique vision as a filmmaker, not just working behind the camera, not just working on the chair, directing every single step of the film, but teaching people who want to learn the skill, teaching people who want to be in the process of creating film with purpose, and most importantly, teaching kids who nowadays need more and more skills in this world that is full of competition, is full of different things that they are bombarded every day through content on social media, content from every single source of information that is available out there. And learning these type of skills can make a huge shift in their mindset. So, Gus, I would like to start right there. If you allow me, tell me about your experience teaching kids, teaching people who are in the need of skills, who are in the need of a different perspective of the world, and how did it start?
Well, the very beginning, how I get started into teaching. I think it was back in Venezuela. I was working for film school. Well, I was not working. I was participating in a film school. I took a year program of film, and I think after that, the owner decided to hire me to work in the film school because she noticed all my technical skills and all the different things that I was capable to do. However, she kind of saw me interacting with other students, and she said, "How about if you wanted to try to teach? I think you have the skills." And I think it's interesting because there's a term that they use here in the U.S. and a person that I met when I moved to Austin called me, "You're some kind of white unicorn?" And I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "Well, because you are good at what you do, but also you're good at sharing that information to people. So it's kind of hard to explain because the mindset to teach to the mindset of creating is a little bit different, because you're sharing information, and you're allowing people to, you guide them to create, versus you are creating the materials or the art per se. So the fact that I'm able to do both, that's something that I feel extremely proud of. So yeah, so I start teaching in Venezuela, and I start teaching adults, mostly adults, because the film school just allow people from different backgrounds and different ethnicities, and like just come to the film school and learn film, learn editing, film editing, and all these different things. And that's when I start developing my skills teaching. That's when I started. Then I moved to New York, and then in New York I was teaching, but also I was working just adults who wanted to learn different softwares and apps for post-production, editing, motion graphics, animation, and all these different things. But then when I moved to Austin, it took me a while to get a job. The way that Austin works compared to New York is completely different, and it was very challenging to find a job. So I spent a couple of months applying, and nothing works, until my wife stumbled upon this on a nonprofit organization. The name is Creative Action. Is this nonprofit would basically offer educational programs, art-based programs, with ESL, so everything about learning skills, about leadership, about how to encourage kids to be themselves. So I started volunteering on a summer camp that was back in 2008, and then everyone saw me interacting with the kids, and they said, "I think you have the skills to do this with children, to teach them what you know." So that fall of 2008, I started teaching. It was a whole process for me of a transformative experience, because I never thought that I can teach children how to do this, and also kind of understand how what you know, you need to dissect what you know and turn it into material that is that is easy to digest for a kid. You're not going to teach it. I mean, especially if you have, I mean, let's say I have like a long list of films that I love, but I can't show the films to the kids because they're not suitable for them. So you have to readapt and figure out how to show whatever you think is best for them to learn the skills. So most of the time I've been teaching students between third, fourth, and fifth, which is mostly kids between 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12. And that's the group that I like to work. And that's the group that mostly I was assigned when I started in the program, because the kids in that point, they're independent, they know what they want, and you can just simply be kind of like their shadow while they're working. So my goal was to build like an entire film crew with students who wants to perform, who wants to edit, who wants to be the director, producer, camera person. And that's how it started. And it was I mean, for all these 5 years that I worked for the organization, it was a great experience, because, you know, you're encouraged the kids to create. You learn the skills of, which kid, you know, is going to bring the story, which kid seems to be the one who is good for directing, the one who's good for camera work, or the performers, or even the kids who are good to create the outfits or props to use in the film. So yeah, that's how it started.
That's fantastic, Gus. I feel like it's really interesting how this process go into the film school. I want to make this comparison quickly. When you are building up a kids football team, for example, or a baseball team, that's exactly what you do. You bring the kids and you start looking at what positions can they play. If you are doing a soccer team or football team, so you want the strikers, you want the midfielders, you want to see who can be a better goalkeeper, or who can play on the defense, and how they integrate themselves. And what you explained here, what you did with these kids, you start looking at, okay, who's going to be on the camera, who can be the director, who can do this, and start building those teams, and you start creating this whole crew of filmmakers, tiny filmmakers that were going to work into projects. I want to ask you if this is exactly the methodology that every single schools apply that is focusing on teaching kids? Or is this something that you actually found easy to work with, that you were able to innovate and make sure that the kids enjoy the most using their strengths into the whole process of learning filmmaking?
That's a great question. I mean, I developed my own skills throughout the process of teaching. I mean, every year was um, basically every year I was trying to push them to create new things, because at that age, the student seems to be very comfortable when they create some kind of work. And in fact, just to give you an example, let's say that the kids are mostly keen into making films about like murder mystery, a group, like one of those movies that have like a family, and then someone gets killed, and then they wanted to make a film about who is the killer. So what is interesting is the kids are keen into make that kind of films constantly, and I didn't want that. So I said, I think you need to push the limits of creativity and trying to make things that they're different to what it was before. It's not like we're doing a follow-up. We're not just simply creating something that is, I mean, we're not, how can I describe it? Is I want to push their limits and push their boundaries of creativity. And when you do that, they realize that they're able to achieve new levels or new set of skills. For instance, I did made a murder mystery movie with them, but then after that, the following semester, I said, "What do you want to do?" "Oh, we're gonna do another murder mystery." It's like, no, let's try to figure out something else. And then we did a science fiction movie that it was shot entirely with green screen backgrounds, and the kids were blown away of what we were able to achieve with that film. And that was a science fiction movie with comedy. So I want them to do that, and to follow up that comparison that you're doing. One of the most interesting things about building a team like a soccer team versus filming a crew, as I finding creating a crew, is that the process seems to be similar. I mean, the coach will figure out, okay, who's the striker, who's the goalkeeper, midfielder, and all this the different you know. Part of the team
Positions.
positions. Thank you. So with film, it's a little bit different, and that was something that I always trying to explain my supervisors, or trying to explain new teachers who are coming in, where they're thinking, oh, we're going to make another movie, and we're going to make this project in the semester. And trying to explain them that throughout the whole range of process of art, let's say you're making music, you're making visual arts, you're making performance, you get a sense of how the process is going, because you see it right away. With film, it's not tangible. You're filming scenes and scenes and scenes until you finally assemble the movie and you see it at the end. And I keep telling them, it's really hard to make movies with students too, because they don't see the tangible result right away. If you do a sketch, you see it after you're done, but it's a process that might take you a couple of hours to maybe a couple of minutes, versus a film that you see a scene, but then if you don't see that scene connected to the following scenes, you don't know exactly what you're doing. So every time that I was trying to explain that to them, I was telling them, you know what, the process is like this. We started at the beginning of the semester. You're not going to see your movie until the end. So that's something that is important to understand, that you need to believe the results will be there, and you need to keep going until the end. And that was probably one of the most challenging parts teaching students, children specifically, is because there's a point in the semester that they're already tired, they're already fed up. They said, I don't want to do it, I'm done. And then that's when you have to do the last push and tell them, we are near the end, we have to keep going.
That's fantastic. And thank you very much for bringing it up, because you were working with kids between 7 to 9 years old. How did you manage the anxiety? Because it's true. One of the characteristics of the kids is that the kids want the result right now. They want to do something and look at the result and move on to the next one. When you mentioned this is a long project, you need to film one scene and then the other and the other, and then you go through the process of editing, and then is when you are going to show up what is the final product. How did you manage to navigate the whole anxiety, the whole work and reward relationship with the kids during the whole time? How they get to manage? What skills did they learn to be able to just work on the project without anxiety or without thinking when is this going to happen, and not quitting at all, no leaving the project halfway, just going through the end?
Um, I use different skills. In fact, the first few weeks of the semester, I tried to not think about that project yet. So I have different activities like developing skills for them where they see where they're able to create something like really quick. Like for instance, one of my favorite activities. There's a film festival. I think it happens around the world that is called the 48-hour film festival. It basically is a film festival where it takes only 3 days, about two days. Sorry, it's 48 hours. So it takes and basically the person who let's say you have a crew who wants to participate in the festival and they give you a prompt and you only have about 48 hours to make that film. So from writing to filming to editing and presenting the film 48 hours later. So I grabbed that idea and I said, how can I make this with students so they can get a sense of what it's like to film, but give them freedom to create something. And something that I love to give the students is freedom to create. But it's very tricky when you give, especially in art, it's difficult to give freedom, because if you don't give a prompt or you don't give a student a layout of what you want to create, they might get anxious because it's like, oh, you're going to make a film about what? What is the whole plot? And so usually what I do is the first few weeks, I bring iPads to the students and I tell them, okay, we're going to make a film in 30 minutes. And what you're going to do is, this is your prompt. This is the genre of the film. And you can do whatever you like. And here's a prompt for you. So the students were already working on creating different things. And this is when you start getting a sense of who is the student who get frustrated when they're producing something so short, and you know who is the ones who are leading. So that's when you start, making your selections for the crew and trying to figure out how to give different tasks. Sometimes I give simple tasks to students. Like for instance, if you know that students are not keen to perform or not interested on using the camera, you wanted to know what they wanted to do. So some students, I give them an iPad. I said, you're going to do just behind the scenes. So the kids are already entertained, filming and taking photos of what's going on set. Or students who have the famous clapper, which is, that thing that you, at the very beginning of the film, said, oh, scene one, take two, and then they clap. So you give that clapper to another student, and the student feel that, feel part of the team and is doing something. So navigating, my biggest way of navigating students, or either stress or anxiousness about a project. And this is a compliment that a student gave me once, and I cherish that compliment. This student said to me, I like you as a teacher because you are not condescending to us. You are not treating us like an adult treat a child. And I said, why you're saying that? It's because you're not lecturing us. And that's one of the things that students love with me. It's like, I'm not telling them what to do. It's like, you can do whatever you like. Just think that I'm the executive producer in your film. And I'm just there to tell you if it's right or wrong, but you can just create. So one of the things that I do is I'm build a bond with them. It's important to have fun. I don't want them to feel that just them to giving orders. I trying to build that environment, a safe environment, but also a place where they can create freely without being questioned by the teacher. So that's how I do it.
Extraordinary. That's what I have to say. Extraordinary. And that feedback that you received is, I know that you appreciate it deeply, but I want to give you this additional compliment, is the fact that the feedback that a kid gives you is an honest feedback. It's coming from their heart, it's coming from their soul, and receiving a positive feedback from a kid who are who is not your kid, it's not family, it's not related, is doing workshop, is doing a course to learn one skill, and you receive that such a feedback, that's something that have a lot of value for the kid. You have given that kid a perspective. You probably achieved his own life just by teaching this skill in that way. And I remember those when I was a kid. One of the things that we as adults usually do is that we child is the child. We always talk the child like they don't know what they are doing. They don't know how to do things, and we use normally diminutive words with the little kid, the little boy, the little girl, and we try to drive the kid in every single matter. But when you and I was a kid, and I always received this type of driving guides with these tiny words that make you feel kid, and that's beautiful in one way. But on the other, when you are growing up, you realize, hey, I want to be treated as a normal human being as well. I want to learn what you learn. I want to learn what you are teaching. I want to learn how to live life and even foster independency. So that particular feedback that you receive from that kid probably was experienced that thing that I'm talking about. He was experiencing a sense of independence, a sense of full learning from the whole material that you have to teach, and additionally, the possibility to develop his own creativity freely in a way that he could express himself in the art. So that's fantastic. And I want just to reaffirm that that particular job, it's something that adds a lot of value. And that's what coaches do. That's what I do as a coach as well. I bring the opportunity to the student as you bring the opportunity to your students to challenge themselves, to be challenged, to learn from where they are, and additionally, not be condescending, but on the contrary, explain this is what you have, this is the job that you have to do, this is what you want to do. Now create it from wherever you are, and then release that job, because you are going to see the final product at the end, and surely you're going to feel proud of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And in fact, I have a point that I wanted to add into the whole. I mean, I wanted to go back to something that happens to me in Venezuela too, and that's all those learning experience that you have in the past allows you to kind of change your mindset and move forward and trying to change someone's experience so they don't experience what you experience. Like there's two things that happens to me as a child, and one is basically I wanted to do this since I was like 8, I think between 8 or 10 years old. I was already had the vision that I wanted to do this, and it was really hard for my parents to understand how that was achievable. And I'm not trying to diminish what Venezuela had done with film, but in the time that I wanted to do it, I mean, Venezuela was not recognized as a film that like a big film industry. Now, I mean, you can see films that you see films on Netflix, and you see wonderful films that have been done in the past maybe 10, 15 years or even 20 years. But it was questioned why you wanted to be a filmmaker. I mean, who wants to do this? Why Venezuela? But I mean, Venezuela, I mean, we don't do that. And in fact, there was like a saying that if you go to study communication, let's say then in Universidad Católica de Venezuela, you would say that, I mean, that if you go there and get a degree, either you turn into a newscaster or a marketing person, but you're not going to be a filmmaker. That's what basically they told me so many times. And then when I was in 8th grade, I also had a very negative experience with a teacher kind of make fun of me when I said, "Oh, what do you want to do when you're older?" "I want to be a filmmaker." He make fun of me. It's like, okay, the only place you can go is Universidad Central de Venezuela. It's like, yeah, well, I will have to go there. That's what, or Merida, I don't know, whatever, they have a film school. So it's interesting that sometimes all these different negative experience can brings you into, trying to not, have somebody on your, I mean, someone in the classroom to have a negative experience like they have. And in fact, when people ask me why you like to teach children, it's like because I never had that experience. So I wish I wanted to give back whatever I didn't experience as a kid, that I wish I had somebody like myself when I was 8 and said, okay, this is how we do film. You grab the camera and we're gonna create this, and this is how you write a story. All these things, I never had that opportunity. So I had to learn it kind of like self-taught, do it myself. So yeah.
That's fantastic, Gus. Just adding on top of that, I just want to mention a personal story. I decided, for example, to become a journalist when I was 7 years old. I was misguided as well as you pointed. I was misguided many times because I asked, what do I need to do to achieve this? And I got all sort of bad advices that didn't point me on the right direction. It was until I was, finishing my high school process when in the middle of my high school process when I started crafting that map that was going to take me there. I finally went to the uni, got my bachelor degree, as you said, I started working in the media as a journalist, but it never crossed my mind to become a filmmaker. I learned about filmmaking later on during my professional career when I started meeting people from different backgrounds and they went to specific schools to just learn that. That's exactly how it is. In Venezuela, you asserted that we were not a country recognized for film industry. It started just growing in the 80s with great producers and extraordinary movies from that generation of artists. Le- Nowadays, I can say you can see one or two movies. However, in the 80s, I think that it was the bloom of the filmmaking industry in Venezuela, in which we produce more than 50 or 60 pieces, different pieces, movies that were also in festivals, presented in festivals, got different galardons in international festivals. It was an industry that was growing as well. However, I think that never set the proper route. That's the reason why Venezuela is still behind in comparison with different countries, from South America. Let's say, for example, Chile, Argentina, who are recognized for their industry film. Even Brazil have a really huge industry film production. I think that's something that we can bring back to Venezuela in the future is the opportunity to keep growing in that particular industry. What do you think about it?
Well, actually, I feel that yes, the 80s was a big boom. They make a really important milestones. I feel that what's going on right now is they decided to do a lot of co-productions because I mean the funding is really hard in Venezuela, and sometimes it's managed by the government. So they decided, okay, let's go do some funding. So that's why I feel that the level of quality of the films is outstanding now because they go to they get Spain and they get other countries, Colombia. I mean, part of the team of the film. The Embrace of the Serpent, who was nominated for the Oscar a couple of years ago, part of the team is from Venezuela. So Venezuela decided to, most of the filmmakers decided to do, co-productions or even, take a leap of faith. Like, you see that film Simon, who was made, who was presented last year on Netflix. I mean, the film has been very successful. However, the government didn't support it to send it to the Academy Awards or some awards because, I mean, they portrayed a different image of Venezuela, which, I mean, government officials didn't want to do it. So, but however, the film was produced in I think it's in Florida, and the film is outstanding when I saw it. So I feel that movies in Venezuela that are being made are great, but they need a lot of funding and a lot of support from different countries to make it possible. I know a couple of people who have made great movies, and I love what they're doing. So that's what I think is like. It's different because in the 80s, the films that it was made, they were made with excellence. I mean, I remember so many. However, I mean, the situation was completely different. I mean, they were making more films that they're focusing into local themes, and now the movies are focusing on themes that they're not necessarily just Venezuela. They're focusing on different things that happens kind of around the world.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think that one of the most important shifts from the boom of the 80s and this new um, wing, I can say, of the filmmaking in Venezuela is the context. So in the 80s was more associated with the social context that we're experiencing in that moment, all the whole population, the whole country, and now are more focused or what have opened up the window for the Venezuelan film industry is the focus on the historical references. For example, as you mentioned, the movies from the series that was in, it was a co-production with Colombia, or Colombia have the production. Team crew from Venezuela were collaborating into that. The series Bolivar, who was released by Netflix as well. So I think that those particular films are giving more importance, are opening that window to look at Venezuela as a filmmaking industry. But I agree with you in that particular. We are talking about co-productions. We are talking about funding that is not coming from everywhere. It's a huge effort that private investors do, that independent filmmakers are doing. And I think that's something that we could look at in the future, how to support this industry, how to support these independent filmmaker, producers, artists that want to create more and expose a beautiful image from our country to the world. So thank you for bringing this up. Life mastery is the ultimate tool for discovering your real self and healing from any personal constraint that might hinder your growth. The purpose of this journey is to nurture your mental health and foster a space of self-development, self-awareness, and self-love, which can impact positively your thoughts, actions, and behaviors. Embark in this exciting world of personal growth by committing to answer a handful of daily questions designed to guide you through a path of development, happiness, and fulfillment. Oh, now, Gus, I have a question for you because one of the products that you release that's being in different festivals is the Tiny Victories 2.0, a tale of empathy. And I want you to tell me about it. I want you to express and explain to this audience what's the secret behind Tiny Victories 2.0 and what's the message, what's the core message, why people need to watch this piece.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, the whole making of this short documentary have a story, and I love when even films had their own background story of how they came to life. What happened with Tiny Victories is that when back in 2022, there was this competition that is held by the American Institute of Architects. So there is a national chapter that runs all the different small chapters, let's say chapter in New York, chapter in Miami, and different. So they launched a competition that's called AIA Film Challenge. So you can participate making a movie, and the movie needs to be 3 minutes exact, 3 minutes long. And the film needs to cover some kind of social development or social project with architecture is involved. So how you architects work with the community in order to make this project meaningful. So what happened with Tiny Pictures is when my wife encouraged me, okay, you know what, you should do this because I think it will be good for you. The challenge was to make a 3-minute movie. So I reached out to a friend who owns a architectural firm, a co-own an architectural firm here in Austin. Coincidentally, her daughter was my student at the time. She was my student for at least maybe 3-4 semesters. So I reached out to her because she worked in a project that is a community here in Austin that is called Community First Village, which is run by a nonprofit under the name Moby Loaves and Fishes. So in this community, architects build tiny homes for homeless. So people who live in the community are homeless people who are able to live in a tiny home, which is about $20,000. The budget is $20,000 per home. So it's like very, very tiny. And the cool thing about the project is like some of the homeless are the clients. So the clients are the one who indicate the architects how they want the house to be built and the design and all these different things. So I reached out to Christy and I decided, okay, I'm going to make a movie about the house that Chiyoko Design did. So I filmed interviews with everyone involved, and I was able to go to Community First Village, get permission, because you can't go there without permission, because it's a land that is basically is very particular when you make projects where homeless are involved, is because they feel unsafe if they see somebody that they don't know. So I already been involved in different projects, and you had to build trust in them so they don't feel like, oh, this person is invading my space. So I went to film the interviews, and I filmed footage. So I filmed footage for the village and the house and the property. And then finally I made the 3-minute movie. The movie was submitted to the a film challenge. The film didn't make it into the finalists. Nothing happened to the film. And I said, okay, wow. So it was kind of annoying to hear the news. But then that was the catalyst for me to go back and rework the film. And I said, you know what, this story, I can't tell this story in 3 minutes. I had to go back and redo it. So I recut the film and I made a almost 10-minute film instead of the 3-minute film. This story was complete to me. This one seems to tell the story properly. So then the film was finished and I started submitting to film festivals. Little did I know, I started getting invitations. Like Copenhagen was one. Then I got one for the Biennale of Architecture in Venice. They sent me an invitation. Then I get another invitation from Detroit, which is a great film festival. The movie won an award there. It's called, it won the Emerging Ideas Award for a film festival that is called Better Cities Film Festival, which is a festival where you present movies about how you improve the quality of life in a city, what kind of initiatives you do. So the movie won an award there. And then I keep sending to other film festivals, invitations, an award in London, and then invitation in Dubai, invitation in Chicago, invitation in Dallas, then invitations in Italy. And I said, wow, this is great. And then one of the biggest surprise for me was back in March of 2024. I got this random email from someone who is the person who runs the Museum of Melbourne in, they're doing an event called Design Week, Perth. Perth is I think it's a area in Melbourne called Perth. Yes. So I got invited and they said, we wanted to present the movie in this panel. And I said, I thought it was so random to me to get that invitation, especially because it was not a film festival. It was this random email. So I started searching for the name of the person who wrote me. And I said, this is true. This is real. This is not weird. And then finally, it was true. So I sent the film. It was like a group of, very important architects in Melbourne who were basically doing a panel about design, and the movie was presented. And then the person who runs the Design Week in Melbourne sent me all the photos, and it was so amazing just to see, the crowd watching the film. And then that's what I learned, that a lot of people in Australia are obsessed with Austin and are obsessed with architecture and are obsessed with cowboys. So I said, oh, this is so interesting. So yeah, the film have made great waves around. I think the community here in Austin are extremely happy, because my intention of making Tiny Pictures was not about making money. I was not interested in making money. I wanted to find ways to show the world what we do here. And the community here in Austin are very grateful, because they said, I'm so happy that the film already have about 8 recognitions. And I'm still waiting for, Monday, they're going to tell me one more to see if it's going to happen. So I'm very, very proud that that's something that has happened. And again, is like I said, I'm doing it because I want to show people what has been done in Austin, especially for the homeless community. So that's, to me, the whole purpose of Tiny Pictures. It was not me making money, or, I'm happy that I got so much, recognition, and that recognition is not just mine. In fact, when I received the certificate from the Better Cities Film Festival, I asked the president, I wrote the president from the festival, I said, I need 3 more copies. And I said, why you need all these 3 copies? Because I'm bringing, one is for me, one is for Community First Village, another one is for the firm who designed the tiny home, and then another one is the organization who create the competition, which is called Design Boys. That's where they select the architects to design the home for Community First Village. So I went to Community First Village, and I was with the whole team, and we have a photo. Like I'm giving them the certificate. It's like, you won this award. It's not just me. Everyone won the award. So yeah.
Oh, extraordinary. That's fantastic. And I think I agree with you when you do something with purpose, like showing the reality that what's happening with the homeless community over there, you definitely get to touch the fever of the humanity, the people that's involved and want to know more. It's an extraordinary story because you went there with the purpose of showing what's happening, understanding, make people understand what's being done for this community. And I want to know what's the receptive message, or what's how it was received for the homeless community in Austin when you presented yourself as a filmmaker and then telling them, hey, this is what's happening with this film. What do you think about it? What do you think could change? What do you think is the change that can bring to their life after being recognized basically in 8 different states or scenarios, between states in the US and international scenarios like Australia?
Well, Community First Village, and also Mobile Earth and Fishes, we're very grateful to know that how many people are seeing the film, and also how many people are they know what's going on. And this is great for funding, because this project keep expanding. Right now they're building what we call Section 3, which is another landfill where they're going to be building more houses. So it's great that you and they feel supported, that this kind of initiatives are very, very important for them to help. And you know, and in fact, when you see the film at the end, you invite people to donate. So you know, you put like the text that said, please donate it to this website. So you keep supporting. So I think it's important that for them that you tell the stories. And in fact, after the whole success of Tiny Victories, another architectural firms, they approached me. I said, when you're making the next one, because I mean, they make so many houses that now you might make another one. And I said, well, I might be doing that in a couple of years. Right now, I wanted to move on and do another different project, which I'm working right now on another film, but it's not related to Tiny Pictures, or it's not related to Community First Village. However, I'm interested in revisiting a Community First Village and approach to another design firm who have made a different house and see what was their story. It will be great to do a series of films, maybe like 5 films, of how every different firm have different approach to designing and what kind of emotions. Because one thing that something that I wanted to lift from the interviews, it was the owner of Chioco Design, who is a design firm, said that one of the most challenging thing is how you ask a person without a home how you should design their home. This person have been living on the street for a long time. They don't have the amenities. They live under a bridge, or sometimes they live in a made out home out of a tent or something like that. So the question is how you provide them with something that it gives them safety. So that's why I think the film is called A Tale of Empathy, because basically I asked them so many questions during the process of the interview, and at the end I asked them, so can you share with me what is empathy to you? What do you think is empathy, and how empathy is related to the work that you do? Because I mean, let's face it, design firms do a lot of community work like this one, but also they have big clients who pay big money for it. So just imagine if you put you have 2 different clients. You have a client who will pay millions of dollars to design their restaurant or design in their home, and then you have somebody who doesn't have anything, who have nothing. And then this person said, oh, you're building a home for me where I can just feel safe and secure. So it's an interesting exploration. And it's a great learning experience to know that you're helping the community and you're showing what is what can be done, or what is possible to do with the design and empathy.
Because you are absolutely right on that. Giving the opportunity to someone who's been experiencing homelessness, to have a house, to have a roof over their head, and feel that they have somewhere to go, a place where they can sleep nice and warm after experiencing the troubles, the difficulties of living on the street, living under a tent sometimes, or just under the roof or any commercial store where they can land. Being exposed to all type of dangers that we have in the concrete wild of any city in the world is a purpose, a social purpose that is greatly perceived for these people. Experiencing homelessness is not just being on the streets. Well, there are many different ways or that people experience homelessness. I remember because when in 2019 here in Australia, a huge storm happened in Melbourne. It was around 5 hours of raining, but heavy raining, and the roof of the house where I was living collapsed. My partner was there with my kid, and she was pregnant in that moment. I was working. I had no idea what was happening on that side. And at the end of my journey that day, and during the night, they all came to the place where I was working, and they just gave me the news. Hey, the roof collapsed. We have no home now. So we have to move that same night to another place and start looking for places and try to find a solution to the problem. And it took around 3 months for us being homeless in that time. We have shelter, yes, we crash in someone else's house for that time. However, we were out of house. I remember as well when I was a kid, my dad passed away when I was 4, and we were homeless for a long period of time. We couldn't afford to pay the rent during that time, and we were living in different places. In probably for a year or two or 3 years. I don't remember how much, how long it was. Um, Experiencing that sensation of not having a place that you can call home, it's something that go through the skin and touch the soul. So this testimony that you are sharing with the world as a filmmaker through this piece of art that shows what's the benefit for an X number of people who has experienced homelessness, having now a place that they can call home is extraordinary. And this is something that I want to give emphasis, because for the people out there who experience this, just another note, over the years 2022 to 2023, I had the opportunity to work with a project here in Melbourne that provide housing for homeless people. They provide temporary housing while the person who is experiencing homelessness um, try to get back onto their feet and restart their life. Um, Being one-on-one with them, knowing part of their stories, knowing part of who they are and the experiences that they had outside. One of the things that always they tell is, I just want to have a place where I can live. I just want a house. I just want a unit where I can be. I don't want anything else. I don't want to be rich. I don't want to get international recognition. I just want a house, because people were living on the street, people were living in the on a van, or people were living in the car, or anywhere where they can crash. Having that experience, being in contact with them, and my own experiences that, thanks God, are not in the same deep level like these people have, just sleeping on the street every single night. It's really tough. I'm sharing this testimony through this film that you created. maybe making that call for more people to jump onto these type of missions, to create opportunities for people to have a home, to get back onto their feet and have a purpose or recover the purpose for their life is extraordinary. So thank you very much for creating that and bringing it up, because I think that's something that can add a lot of value for the people and for the humanity.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I want to talk about your personal story. You are Venezuelan. You migrated to the US quite a few years ago, and as many Venezuelans have to migrate over the last 20 years for different reasons associated with the social, political, and financial context in our country. We have had experienced many things. We have reinvented ourselves many times, and we had to learn resilience in most cases the hard way. What is your experience as an immigrant to the US? What did you live? How did you recreate yourself? How did you reinvent yourself?
Well, I mean, the good thing about working in the industry is, that if you move to countries like, like they're in a country in Europe or the US or even some Central American countries, that you can find a job in the industry. So that was my assumption. So I mean, instead of me moving to a easy place, because a lot of people said, why don't you just go to Miami? And I said, I don't want to go to Miami. I wanted to challenge myself from Caracas. I wanted to go someplace else, and basically I decided to go to New York. So I mean, New York is probably one of the toughest city I've ever lived in my life, and I still love that city so much, and I miss so much the experience, because um, this city can teach you so many things about, especially you're coming from South America and you're such a, Hispanics are warm, and then New York is such a cold place. People are not the ones who are just gonna wave at you and say hello to you when you're passing on the street. You have to learn how to be resilient. And in fact, one of the best advice that I got, I'm a really good friend when one of the members of the Venezuelan band Los Amigos Invisibles, Jose Luis Pardo, Cheo. He's now independent musician, so he's amazing at what he does. So I met him for the first time during a recording sessions. He was doing music for a commercial, and I was working in the same place. And I met him, and I introduced myself, and then he said to me in Spanish, I'm going to try and just translate it the best way possible. He said, New York is like a sandpaper, because it, as the friction goes, it will shape you to be in the city. So the sandpaper, this city is like sandpaper, so it will shape you the way it should be. So as an immigrant, it was hard, because I moved to New York in 2003. So we're talking about 2 years after 9/11. So things were really tough. Things were really difficult to find jobs. And especially you're coming in, and then people don't know exactly who you are, and then you have to prove it. So it doesn't matter what kind of portfolio I brought from Venezuela. A lot of people didn't care about my portfolio. And I work for HBO Latin America, and I work for different production companies. I won we won awards with commercials, and I'm talking about big brands. I mean, we're talking about commercials that they're also brands in Venezuela. In Venezuela, in the US. So I had to prove everybody that I was capable to do the work that I do. So you had to be patient. I mean, I did really difficult jobs that I'm not proud of, but they paid. And then you were able to do other things. And in fact, my first months in New York was not just simply working in the industry. I had to do other things. So that's one of the things that it's important to learn, that sometimes you have to make sacrifice. I mean, I work, cleaning in businesses to earn some money while I was waiting for my papers to go through. I know that is really hard for everybody, and I mean, I was pretty lucky that I was able to apply for papers right away, because I didn't apply. I applied as an artist, and they give a visa for artists, So I was able to get the visa like very quickly, but I didn't get jobs right away. So I had to work in other things while I was waiting to get jobs. So I mean, that was kind of like my first lessons, to be resilient and be patient, that people are not going to hire you just right away. So you had to follow all the opportunities. I mean, and I work in places where I was mistreated for being an immigrant, and I was mistreated for speaking Spanish, or I was mistreated for being from South America. I have a client who basically told me, I was working in editing a video, and then the producer, who seems to not like Hispanics, he made that derogatory comment to me. She said, "We're ordering food because we're working through lunch." And I said, "I'm not sure what I'm going to order. Maybe I'll order sushi, or I will order a burger or something like that." And then she said to me in a derogatory comment, "Oh, I thought that you guys from Latin America always, every one of you, eat beans and tacos." And and I don't like that kind of stuff. So basically, I don't regret what I said. I said, "Well, I'm coming from Venezuela, and we eat arepas. We eat beans too, but I eat arepas, and we eat the pabellon and all these different dishes." So unfortunately, that was my last day on that gig. I lost the gig because basically the person didn't like my comment, and the owner came and said, "You know what? I think you can't work on that job." It's like, well, whatever. I mean, I know that I'm starting in the industry, but I'm not going to let somebody talk to me that way, and thinking that they can just get away by doing a derogatory comment toward Hispanics, toward my food, or towards what is part of my identity. So yeah, I've been there. So that's one thing that everyone's going to face, no matter how you look like, because some people might say, "Oh, you know what? You don't look your skin doesn't look very dark, and that's maybe they're not going to treat you that way." It's like, well, I was mistreated too, in so many different ways, and even I was shushed by people when they hear me speak in Spanish. So it's not about the color of your skin; it's about what you represent. So yeah, David in New York was tough at the very beginning, but then you start finding your groove, you start working in different places. I mean, I built a reputation, and I was lucky also that in that time there was a lot of agencies who were implementing doing commercials in Spanish and commercials in English. So I was able to do both. That was something that it was a great skill. Just my language was a great skill. Not It was a new skill for me. It was not just simply, "Oh, you know what? I'm good at what I do, cutting commercials or all these things." Like, no, I can work on the commercial in English, and I can work on the commercial in Spanish. So it was great, and it was a great skill that I developed. So I was what is called a bilingual editor. That's how they call me, or how they call like all these editors who know how to manage the language. But it's interesting because it's a language barrier when you move there. I mean, just to give you an idea, let's say I was working in a commercial. I mean, I'm just going to give an example. I was working for a Heineken commercial, and then I was the editor from Venezuela. Then the account person is from Puerto Rico. Then the copywriter is from Ecuador. And then the producer is from Cuba. And then the other creative is from Spain. And then there was a time that it was impossible for me to speak in Spanish to them, because none of us were going to stand each other, because everyone was using slang. So we start speaking to all of us in English. I mean, no judgment, but if you're talking to a Cuban who's using slang, or a Puerto Rican who's using slang, it's impossible for us to understand. So sometimes we would just talk to each other in English. So that's another thing. It's a language barrier because we're using our own slang. So that was a journey, learning all these different things, but then learning how to work with the American way of doing work, which is less emotional. Sometimes it's, let's get things done. Not too many questions, all for the money. Sometimes for the projects, everything was about the money. So, I mean, it was a lot of work. I spent a lot of hours, especially advertising. I mean, you don't work a 9-to-5 job. You work 12 hours, 15 hours. Sometimes you have to pull out an all-nighter to finish a project for the next morning, or you have to work on holidays, weekends, to make sure that every deadline is met. So yeah, that was the experience in New York, learning all these things. And I had to tell you this anecdote because as a Venezuelan, it was really funny. It's like I had my first hot dog in New York, and the guy put mustard and ketchup, and I said, "Where is the mayo?" Because in Venezuela we put mayo, we put like chips. We put this and that. And he said, "Who puts mayo on a hot dog? That's so disgusting." So I said, "Okay, that was another lesson for me as an immigrant. It's like, okay, my hot dogs are this way, but New York hot dogs is just ketchup and mustard."
Obviously, that friend, that new joker, never try one demonia or any of those
Yeah.
wonderful street food that we
Yeah.
created in Venezuela.
Hmm.
A hot dog without mayo or even the chips on there is not a hot dog, but
Yeah.
it's a New York hot dog. That's
Yeah.
how it is, and that's how I have them here as well. It's just the bread, the sausages, tomato sauce, and mustard.
Yeah.
And then I create my own at home, and of course it tastes like Venezuela. And because this is an experience that many thousands people, now we are in the mark of quite a few millions Venezuelan citizens that has experienced it out and abroad, has experienced as immigrants. We get into different countries, and we didn't have this culture. This is something new for Venezuela, because we are used to receive people in Venezuela. We were used to receiving people from the Second World War, from different crises around the globe, mostly Europeans rooted in Venezuela. We have an extraordinary community of Spanish, Portuguese. We have Italians, and many people set their roots and settled in Venezuela along the as a consequence of the Second World War. Um, Venezuela didn't experience this migration, this unplanned migration as we have experienced over the last 20 years. And I think that there is a huge culture shock when, as a Venezuelan, we get into these countries and we find this reality that people from other countries like Colombia, Cuba, or Puerto Rico have for many, many years. Um, I think that we grow in one sense, which is the fact to learn that some people are as they are. And we have a culture, really beautiful culture, warm, welcoming culture in Venezuela that we probably miss when we have these experiences in different countries. On the other side, something that you can also learn is that the unhappiness of others is just their unhappiness. It's nothing with the fact that you like beans or not. It's nothing to do with our arepas, yacas, or pabellon. It's just the unhappiness of someone else. And I learned through years that I cannot cut everyone with the same scissor. However, um, communities work in one way. Um, Usually, the culture is created by what most people accept and do. So the actions that are repeated over and over again, that's exactly what culture is. If you go to a company and there is bullying in the company, it's because bullying is the bullying behavior is accepted and is practiced consistently, and that's what created culture. So when you go to New York and you learn all these negative things, that's because that culture, that behavior is practiced regularly, consistently, and it is accepted. Or you come to Melbourne and you experience the same thing, it's exactly the same answer. It's practiced consistently, is accepted like that, and that's the culture that is created. However, we are human beings and we are in our right to not accept, to be restricted, to be um, pointed into derogative comments or being victimized by any action group or belief that any person group may have. Um, this is for this is a reflection that I have for myself, my family, my Venezuelan citizens who have to migrate to different countries under these circumstances, and any immigrant in the world. There is no reason for accept this type of culture or these type of practices and being victimized just because you are coming from a different country, you have a dark skin, or you have an accent, is something that we are proud of. I am proud of being Venezuelan. I am proud of speak Spanish. I am proud of have the tambor and the arepas in my veins, and that's something that we want to recognize anywhere where we are at. Nowadays, I am more than happy that our flag is everywhere. However, what doesn't make me happy is the circumstances and the reasons behind it. But something that I can see in a positive way is the fact that our culture, our flag, our people have been working hard on setting a good example anywhere where they have land over the last 2 decades. Thank you very much for bringing that up, Gus. I think that's something important. And definitely one of the things that we achieve in the whole process is transitioning to a different level, and is transitioning to the fact that you can stand up anywhere and say your dream and what you do, and you are going to be recognized because what you do, not because any stigma, social stigma, or social label that is put beforehand just because you have to land somewhere else. Thank you very much for that, Gus.
You're welcome.
We are coming to the end of this episode now. I want to know if you have any comment or message that you want to share with this audience. This is Gustavo Bernal, filmmaker.
Well, one of the last things I wanted to share in is, I think with the whole pivoting and resilience that was presented during the episode, I think is important, and it's embedded in me, and it's been happening, in Caracas when I was in Caracas, when I was in New York, and now when I'm in Austin. And again, it's been a whole process from, moving here, learning how things worked in Austin, completely different to New York, then dealing with the pandemic, which was another opportunity for me to reinvent myself, teaching online, which was another great success. But then, coming back from the pandemic, it was just now running my own business. And it's interesting because this is one of the biggest tests that you can have. In fact, I was having a conversation this morning with my wife, and I said, it's interesting. It's kind of like an interesting thought when you said, oh, you know what? Now I'm my own boss. Now I don't need to prove anybody else. And I said, well, yes, I had to prove myself that I can just, earn some money and bring in home that money. So the resilience, has to kick in a different way, because you're no longer just an artist who create content. You are the person who are planning to create that content. You're the one who needs to approach potential clients to get jobs, and you're the same person who had to chase them to pay you. So there's a lot of aspects of resilience there, and you have to keep learning, because a lot of people that I know, they will give up and they said, you know what, I can't do this. I'm just gonna get a full-time job and forget about this. I don't want to deal with taxes. I don't want to deal with a client. I don't want to go to all these different events just to simply find a project. And you deal with a lot of people online who are just going to try to sell you the formula, like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to show you how to make $20K a month with my system. So it's a learning curve, and that's one of the things that I wanted to put out here, is like the aspect of, be patient. I'm patient, but sometimes I get impatient too. I'm a human, so that's something that you need to accept. You can't just simply. One thing that I like to present here is like that I don't have the secret formula for this, and I'm not a perfect. I have moments where they're like down moments where I'm down, and I said, okay, I can't find this gig, or I lost this project. But you have to keep going. So you have to keep going, and you have to find ways to reinvent yourself. But I like to reinvent myself within what I do, because sometimes you will find people around you who will say, you know what, maybe you should start selling houses instead of you're doing your own film movie thing, because it doesn't work. Maybe you should start being a realtor and start selling houses, or maybe you should do something else because it's not going to work. But how can you tell that to somebody who at the age of 8, I was dreaming of doing this, and this is you feel that you were born to do this. So you have to trust your gut too. You have to believe in what you're doing, because if you're not believing what you're doing and you're simply finding something else, I mean, or either you don't have an opportunity because maybe this is not your path, or maybe, I mean, it's not working for you. So it's important that you're clear of what you're doing and what your how you set up your goals. And it's great. We're at the beginning of January. So this is a moment where everyone's like, oh, this is my goals. This is what I'm doing. I'm going back to the gym. I'm going to get this. I'm going to make my list of plans. So it's a good lesson. Yes.
That's right. That's one of the things when we become entrepreneurs. We need to prove ourselves. We are not proving anyone else. We are not proving the whole world that we are qualified to do something. We are proving ourselves we can do it, and we want to do it and make sure that things are just a cumulative success for ourselves, because it's our life. So that's absolutely right. This is the month, as you said, this is the month in which most people start the year looking at what goals are they setting, how they're going to set, how they are going to work on them to accomplish them at any point during the year. Working as an entrepreneur, it's important practice just to step into this and say, create a plan, create that map, and understand what are the following steps that we have to take in order to make sure that these goals are completed, accomplished, and we can experience that success.
Yes, that's true.
Absolutely. Gus, how can people find you?
Well, you can find me. My website is gusbernal.com. So that's where you can find me, and they have all the different access to LinkedIn or Instagram for my business. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Gus Bernal, filmmaker, creator with a unique approach to this industry based on purpose and vision. Thank you very much for being here with us today, Gus. I wish you the best year ever this 2025, and continue bringing these type of films that create a different perspective, that create a vision about what are the purpose of ourselves in any industry and what can we do for the humanity. Thank you very much, Gus, one more time. This is the Life Coaching Podcast. I am Angel Gonzalez, and I believe in you. I believe in your unlimited capacity to achieve the results that you want for your life. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Life Coaching Podcast. I hope that today's episode has empowered and inspired you to take bold steps towards your own personal and professional breakthroughs. If you found value in today's stories and insights, please share this episode with your friends and family, because your feedback fuels my mission to bring you even more impactful content. And next week, I will continue to explore the amazing potential within ourselves. Until then, keep striving, keep dreaming, and keep moving forward towards your best life. I am your host, Angel Gonzalez, and this is the Life Coaching Podcast.